What's up, guys? It's Wednesday, June 19th. I'm currently in blazing hot Las Vegas. Today, Jess Houlgrave is a guest on the podcast to talk about her work in the blockchain industry revolving around crypto art and collectibles. She has spearheaded multiple projects and is currently on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list of 2019 for her work. We had a great conversation, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you haven't done so already. All right, enjoy.
This is the BlockHash Podcast.
Hey, Jess, how's your Monday going?
Everything's good. Thank you.
Good. Well, anyways, thanks for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I've been wanting to talk about art and collectibles and whatnot for a while, since artists have really had such an impact on blockchain lately, and more specifically in dApps and NFTs. So I'm excited to discuss it a bit with you and kind of get your opinion on the subject.
Yeah, fantastic.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about your story and your background, how you got into blockchain.
So I guess in terms of my story, originally I come from the finance world. So my first degree is in economics and management. And after university, I joined Credit Suisse in their investment banking team. And focused on UK corporate M&A and equity capital markets and worked on some really, really interesting deals. And after about 3 years, I joined a Canadian pension fund called OP Trust, where I joined their private markets group. And I was investing in private equity deals across a range of markets, a range of sectors, and really kind of building up the portfolio here in Europe for that team. And it was super interesting because I'm one of these people, I love learning and I love learning about totally new things. And so I would, one day be working on a retail and consumer deal and another day be learning about infrastructure, for example. And I spent 3 years with OP Trust, really, really enjoyed it, but was always very envious of the entrepreneurs that I was meeting with, people who were actually kind of in there and building companies. And at the beginning of 2016, I sort of, I felt that I needed a change, a new challenge, and I took a little bit of time out to figure out what that was. I'd already become interested in blockchain and crypto a year or so before, thanks to a friend of mine, and had been kind of dabbling in investments and really sort of learning a little bit more about the technology. And at the same time, I also have had a very kind of long-standing interest in the art world. And so these are sort of my two parallel interests. And I ended up really combining them. And I went to Sotheby's Institute of Art here in London, where I wrote a master's thesis on the applications of blockchain technology for the art world. And that was in 2016, so early 17. And I've sort of been full-time in the space ever since.
Very cool. Do you create your own art as well, or do you just kind of study it?
I wish I had more time to create work. I still do a little bit. I can be found, if I have a Sunday morning free, I sit down sometimes and draw. But my real passion is actually old maps. I collect old maps and sea charts and things like that. So, I certainly wouldn't describe myself as an artist, but a lot of my friends are artists, and I love kind of being immersed by creative people.
I don't know if there's a term for those that study old maps, and I don't know if I've heard that before, but that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, what I find so fascinating about them is that most of them are totally wrong. I have maps where, the outline of a country is totally wrong, or where a particular mountain or a river is totally wrong. And the reason I love that is because it's such a good reminder that at that point in time, we thought that was the truth. But then science moves on, technology moves on, and we realize we were wrong. But it doesn't mean that we thought we were wrong at the time. It's just that was kind of the limits of our human knowledge at a particular point in time. And it's kind of a really nice reminder that, no matter how advanced we think we are now, there's always, things going to change, and nothing is, knowledge is ever evolving. And I really love that.
Right. Yeah. And, maps are always changing all the time, too. I remember I was taking my aeronautical test at one point, and we had to read like older maps. They're like only a few years old, but they changed those maps and they're completely outdated, and you wouldn't be able to use them if you were flying today because they changed all the zones and there's new towers going up and airports are remodeling and you have air traffic. And that's just one example. But yeah, there's maps are getting outdated all the time. And so there's probably some really unique collectible aspects to like older maps that like kind of tell history a little bit from a different perspective.
Yeah, I have a couple from like the 1600s and the 1700s, and it's just incredible to think about, the people who were creating them and exploring the world back then. I find them, really beautiful as just objects in their own right, but I also love thinking about how they were created.
Wow, 1600s is pretty old. Are those authentic or copies?
Yeah, they're originals. So I guess I kind of have always been enjoyed things like quirky old maps and have a lot of friends who are artists, and was just really captured by this intersection of blockchain technology and art, because there are so many different use cases of the technology in the art world. And back when I was writing my thesis, there were already, and this is sort of 2016, 17, there were already 20 or so companies actually trying to build software for the art world using blockchains.
Hmm.
And now there's, at least 50 that I'm kind of aware of and keep an eye on. And so it's a really interesting and kind of niche use, but at the same time, artists have played a very big role, I think, for generations in explaining new technologies. You only have to look at like Da Vinci's paintings and drawings of technology to see the impact that an artist can have on society's understanding of technology. And, I think it's very much the same today. We have these incredible artists who are working with blockchain as part of their actual practice, as part of their work. And that can help us tell the story to people who are new and just engaging with blockchain for the first time. And I really love that kind of intersection between the two.
Yeah, it's definitely a really fun intersection. And I've noticed that you've created a few projects as well to help bridge some of those gaps and help artists with their art on the blockchain. One of them being Codex. Can you talk about that one a little bit?
Yeah, so the Codex Protocol we started in 2017. We were backed by, or we are backed by, two auction software companies, Live Auctioneers and Auction Mobility, who are the sort of founding consortium. And they both build software for auction houses. And between them, they serve about 5,000 auction houses globally. And we worked with them to develop a product which really creates a digital identity for a work. And in the world of art, we use this word provenance, which is a bit of another word for kind of history or supply chain of an item. But in the art world, it's really, really important because it helps us evaluate the risk of an artwork being inauthentic or not having the right claim to ownership or having some outstanding insurance issues or any of this. All of this documentation is really, really important in the art world. And today it's very paper-based. And so what Codex does is it effectively creates this digital passport or identity for work, and then you can add provenance information to it. So you could add an appraisal or an insurance certificate, a receipt of sale, and as well as kind of visual photographs or condition reports of that work, so that over time you can build up that information in a really reliable and verifiable way. And that's something that's really exciting for the art world because we've never really been able to do that before. You can't verify that a piece of paper that is a receipt actually came from the place that it is supposed to have come from without picking up the phone and making sure that it matches their records. Whereas with Codex, you can do that in a very digital way. And so it was a really amazing project, and it's currently being rolled out to many of those 5,000 auction houses, as well as having a product for artists, which allows them to document their own work, create Codex records for work that they produce, and then transfer those records to collectors or to their gallerists to maintain and update those records.
So I noticed you talk a lot about provenance. I watched a few videos as well as you were talking about some of this stuff. Can you elaborate on why that's important too?
Yeah, so really it's about being able to verify, I guess, risk or being able to judge risk. If you're purchasing a work of art or an old map or anything else that is secondhand very often, you want to make sure that the person selling it to you actually owns it. You want to make sure that it's real, that it's not a fake or a forgery or a copy. You want to make sure that the condition that you observe it in is its true condition, so it hasn't kind of been touched up, or if it has been touched up, then it's been done by a reputable conservator, so that there's no damage to the work. All of these kind of factors which play into the history of the work, and ultimately help us to decide how much we will pay for something. So if I see two identical works, one has an impeccable provenance, it's been owned by a couple of museums or some very well-known collectors, it's always been insured, it's been sold at reputable auction houses, and the identical work kind of just appeared out of nowhere. We're not really sure who owned it before or where it's been for the last 100 years. I'm going to apply a huge discount to that second work because it's much harder to evaluate whether it's real or whether the person selling it actually owns it. And that's why provenance is so critical, because it has a direct impact on the value of artworks. And also from an academic perspective, really helps us to understand an artist's work and body of work and their career. And so documenting provenance is very important, both from the market perspective and an academic perspective. But today it's often kind of done a little bit haphazardly. You might have some paperwork, some paper receipts, for example, when something has been sold before. But that information is very hard to verify. And so if we can use something like a Codex record, a blockchain-based record for the provenance, we can allow verified third parties to directly write information to that record, so that we know that the receipt is real, because it's digital, it's been signed digitally by a verified kind of key, and that helps us solve a really big problem, and that is that a lot of the fakes or forgeries that we hear about in the context of the artwork aren't actually the paintings themselves or the picture or the objects themselves, but they are all the supporting documentation that goes with those objects. Huge amount of forgery amongst that provenance documentation. And so using Codex records or any other sort of provenance-focused platform, we can really start to address some of those issues.
Yeah, it definitely, forgery is an issue with digital works and anything digital, really, because it's really hard to verify that any single digital piece of information is unique, and you can easily make copies of it, and you can't really distinguish it. So, provenance is very important for verification of digital works and whatnot, and being able to put that stuff on the blockchain. Codex is definitely doing a lot of good there. Do you guys see yourself as becoming a marketplace or more just a tool for other marketplaces to use?
We really see ourselves as the tool. There are a lot of marketplaces, and marketplaces are very specific, where people go to buy work priced, below $100 versus work priced from $1 million up, or where they go to buy contemporary art versus more traditional or more traditional works, or where they go to buy sculptures. All of these places are very different, and I think that the great thing about Codex is that it can be applied to all segments of the market. And so rather than becoming the marketplace, which is a very different proposition, really we are there to facilitate this technology for artists and marketplaces.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome what you guys are doing at Codex. I saw that you were listed on Forbes 30 under 30 for 2019. Was that for Codex or a different project?
Yeah, it was for art and culture, and so really, I think it was about my work with Codex,
Mhm.
perhaps also about the Foundation for Art and Blockchain, which is a foundation that we launched in May last year, actually, at the Ethereal Summit, where we auctioned off a bunch of crypto and blockchain themed artworks to raise money. And the purpose of that foundation is to support artists who are working at the intersection of art and blockchain. Um, and so we have funded some projects, we've funded artists' workshops, and we kind of continue to work very closely with artists who are at the very core of this technology. And so, that's I think another really interesting project that is a very different take, but is really giving access and support to artists who are working on this. And alongside that, I've done quite a lot of work with other institutions, museums and private collections all around the world, really trying to help them understand the implication of blockchain, not only for their own collection, but how it might impact the art world in a more broad sense.
Does the foundation work with artists that aren't as knowledgeable on blockchain? Because I know quite a few artists that would like to kind of get involved with blockchain or verify their art or their collectibles or whatever they got necessarily that they're collecting, but they just don't understand the technology. Is that something you guys with the foundation kind of help with as well?
Yeah, so for an artist who's really looking to start registering their own works, I would actually recommend looking at Codex because it's some very simple educational material on the Codex blogs and on the website that can teach an artist, how to get set up and start doing this for themselves. So that's a very kind of concrete tool that artists can use with very little, knowledge about blockchain. We have tried to build, as much as we can so that you don't need to have an in-depth knowledge of blockchain. From the foundation's perspective, we're interested not necessarily just in artists who are using blockchain to document their work or to kind of provide certificates of authenticity or for provenance purposes, but really at artists who are using blockchain as either a medium, so instead of using oil paints or charcoal, they're actually using blockchain to produce works, or who are producing work that is about blockchain or its impact on society. So typically with the foundation, it's a little more involved and the work has a direct connection to blockchain. Whereas for an artist who is just interested in how this might help them to verify their works or to document their own works, Codex probably actually has better resources for that.
Okay, gotcha. That makes more sense. I've also noticed that you've done a lot of work with women in blockchain as well. What are some of the projects you've done related to that?
Yeah, I feel I feel very strongly about diversity generally in technology. I think it's really
Mhm.
helpful to have a diverse set of people contributing to technology because it often inherits the biases of the people that are building it. And so if we can create a diverse pool of people, we're much more likely, I believe, to be able to create technology that can benefit everybody, including minority groups who have, maybe previously been ignored as technologies have been developed. And that includes artists, and that's why I love working with artists and creatives so much. But it also includes women. And I was very fortunate to be part of a group of women in 2018 who founded Shios, which is a block producer on the EOS blockchain. We're 10 women, and since then we've had a number of other women kind of come into the fold, and we use part of our profits to fund women's technical education. So we've run developer courses, and we have a partnership with Kingsland University to run coding classes for young girls. And we kind of feel very strongly that, working at a very young age and encouraging girls into technology and coding and blockchain more specifically is a great way to ensure that there's diversity in this ecosystem in the future.
Yeah, coding's definitely a great gateway to help get people into technology, especially women too. Are you guys outsourcing the coding aspects? Are you working with another company, or do you guys do that all on your own?
Yeah, so that kind of depends on the setup. We are fortunate enough to have the Cybercode twins as part of our ecosystem, and those two girls are fabulous and run a lot of workshops and coding camps all around the world, and hackathons and some amazing stuff. And we also partner with Kingsland, who are a learning education provider specifically kind of focused on technology and blockchain. And so it kind of depends on the context, but we do some of it ourselves and work with partners on others.
Okay, very cool. Who were the girls involved with that?
The Cybercode twins.
Oh, Cybercode twins. Okay, I'll have to look them up.
Yeah, check them out. They're incredible women who fly around the world either running hackathons or winning hackathons in blockchain and AI and all sorts of things, and have worked on some really incredible projects and developed themselves some really interesting technology. And we're extremely fortunate to have them as part of the team at Shios.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's awesome. It's very inspiring too. So are you working on a project called Edge?
I am, yeah. So my kind of latest project is Edge. It's a company that was founded a year or so ago by a very good friend of mine, someone that I've known for almost a decade socially, who started sort of his career as a sports lawyer, and was representing footballers and football teams and various people in the traditional sports world, and at the same time was very engaged personally kind of with the esports and gaming ecosystem. He's a big computer game player. And after a couple of years of playing games as well as working in traditional sports, he sort of combined those two and started working with esports players as a lawyer and as an agent. And that ecosystem is such an incredible industry. It's the biggest form of entertainment these days. Millions and millions of people are watching video games, paying to go and see esports tournaments, and it's growing so quickly. But there's a real lack of infrastructure in that ecosystem. And anybody listening who is involved in esports may have heard recently of several contract disputes or prize money that just doesn't get paid. There are quite a few issues, and so Edge is a platform that is designed to address the sort of the legal and payment infrastructure for the esports and gaming industry.
Yeah, esports is really interesting. Like, I know some of them are far bigger than the Super Bowl in terms of their audience size and everything, and because they're online, and it's an area that's growing really quickly, and you got like Fortnite and all these online games and whatnot. There seems to be so many parallels between what blockchain can do to help the gaming industry as well, because everything is basically online between the two. So yeah, there's a big market there for Edge.
Yeah, so we actually, at the back end of Edge have a set of smart contracts that can be used to automate the distribution of prize money based upon criteria fulfillment that we read from game APIs and social media APIs. And so we can really automate all of that back office process, and make sure that gamers are getting paid, and that people are fulfilling their contractual obligations. And so I think it's a really exciting platform. It's a really great use of blockchain technology, as well as a whole bunch of other innovative stuff that we're building. And so I'm really excited to kind of be supporting the team there.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. What blockchain are you using? Ethereum?
At the moment, we're built on a permission version of Ethereum. and kind of we've just built our MVP, which is really exciting. We had a launch for that a couple of weeks ago where we demoed the project to a bunch of industry stakeholders, like gaming executives and investors and gamers and lawyers, and we had an awesome reception. So we're really excited about that, and we're kind of now entering the next phase of building and of making sure that that payments piece kind of fully works. And so it's a really exciting time for us.
Yeah, it seems like it, especially the way that the industry is going for gaming and stuff. So yeah, really excited to see what you guys do there. Let me ask you one more question before we kind of wrap up and everything. But what's your opinion on where you think crypto art is going in the future? It's making tons of progress right now, and it's a great outlet for artists. Do you see there being any hurdles to that actually happening, or what do you see the future looking like for artists, in general, artists like on the blockchain?
I think crypto art is a really interesting word because it encompasses, in many ways, so much. It includes artists who are just using blockchain as a sort of tool. It includes artists who are creating work using blockchain code, and it includes artists who are producing work maybe in more traditional mediums, but that are about blockchain or crypto culture. And so it's a kind of really broad spectrum. And that's what I love about it so much, is that there is so much diversity. You have everything from someone like Ed Fornielis, who is using crypto certs and cryptocurrency as a way of funding his artistic practice, all the way through to someone like Kevin Abosch, who's issuing his own digital currencies as part of artworks, and then right back to somebody like Jessica Angel, who is producing very traditional works, paintings or drawings or installations, but that are a commentary on blockchain. They are about networked systems or about how information flows within these systems. And so there's a huge amount of diversity, and I love seeing how creative people are being with this new technology as a tool and also as a subject to explore. In terms of what I think the future holds, I think we're going to see so many exciting platforms. One of my particular favorites is a platform called Pixios, which is built on the EOS blockchain. The team there are just incredible and are really focused on offering artists new ways to engage with either their collector base or with their wider audience, as well as the sort of gamification aspect of it. And I'm a huge fan of Pixios, as well as of Dada in New York, which is this sort of artists kind of ongoing blockchain-based conversation. There are too many projects out there to name them all individually. Those two are particularly favorites of mine. But I think we're going to see a lot more of them, and we're going to see those platforms grow, which can give many more artists the opportunity to engage with this technology as part of their practice. And ultimately, what I hope is the sort of the long-term effect is that we can offer artists new ways to monetize their practice. I think artists create a huge amount of value in society, both economic value as well as cultural value. But very often they as individuals aren't recognized, or they don't kind of get the benefit of the value that they create. And so I'm very optimistic that some of these platforms can start offering us new ways of ensuring that artists are fairly rewarded for the value that they create. And so I guess that's sort of where I hope that this goes.
Absolutely. I think there are going to be many blockchain platforms with many different applications that will create tons of opportunities for artists. And the diversity alone is incredible, and it's helping really redefine what art is. Like, I would never pictured art being a crypto kitty or a crypto punk or something as silly as that, but it really has created such an interesting culture in the blockchain world and around art in general, and has really expanded how you look at art and what it is, and then even aside from just art, but like things you can collect and things you can attach to the blockchain from the real world. And
Yeah,
it's very cool.
I think it's we're at such an interesting point in time right now because of these, this transition from the physical world to the digital world, and certainly the generation below me are true digital natives. Everything exists in a digital context, and so whereas I think often there has been a perception that collecting art is something for the elite. Um, I love that CryptoKitties or all these digital collectibles are kind of becoming part of the zeitgeist, and that young people can collect artwork on their phone. They don't need to have a house and hang artworks and figure out insurance and all that sort of stuff. They can literally experience artwork through their screen, and I think that that's just a really amazing way that everybody can experience culture, and kind of use art as a kind of means of communication, and I find that really exciting.
Yeah, the future is definitely digital, and we're really in a transitional stage into that right now. And you can see how we're moving so much from spending our everyday life in the real world to spending more and more and more within technology and in a digital realm or spectrum on the blockchain or in video games or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing some work recently in like augmented and virtual reality technology, and seeing artists create whole new worlds
Mhm.
literally in virtual reality is just absolutely incredible. And it's really the first time that the technology has been there for them to do that. And yeah, more and more of us will experience that, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on with augmented reality. I was talking with a couple artists a few weeks back, and you can use this app called Art Vive. I think it's called Art Vive. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but it lets you like animate the art piece when you like scan it. And you can scan the art piece kind of like a unique barcode, and it's already verified like on the blockchain. It can be an NFT. And then you can scan it with your phone, and then it'll like have its own unique animation and everything. It's just opening up so many different. It's just opening up barriers to so many different opportunities. It's very cool.
Yeah, I every time I see a new piece of this technology in action, or I see it used in a different context, it's just incredible and really inspiring. And I think we're just at the very beginning of that journey.
Definitely at the beginning. Do you have a favorite DApp
Ooh.
or too many?
Yeah, like I think if I had to pick one, I think I probably would say Pixios. I'm such a big fan of the community that they've built there. Outside of art, gosh, there's loads. I love Sense Chat, obviously. Moving away from these very centralized systems, being able to send EOS via Sense Chat. Um, that's a great app, and one that I actually use regularly. There are just so many. It's hard to pinpoint. What I really love is that versus 18 months ago, where a lot of these dApps were just kind of ideas or under construction, there are now things that are really working, and they're working really well. And it's almost, they're offering, particularly in the case of something like Sense, real competition for centralized apps. The user experience isn't compromised at all. And for me, that's really exciting because I think we're going to start seeing much faster adoption because of that.
Yeah, the like Ethereum is becoming very oversaturated with dApps lately, and it's driving a lot of value to the platform, which is really cool. I think what we forget sometimes is there are a lot of different blockchain projects out there that are like Ethereum, and they're all going to have many, many dApps saturating their platforms as well. So I don't think we're fully grasping the diversity of the applications that'll be on these blockchains that we'll have to choose from. So, I mean, it's hard
Yeah,
for me to pick anything right now. I spend a lot of time in like crypto voxels and whatnot, and Decentraland, just because the whole virtual world aspect, the whole metaverse vibe is kind of
yeah,
interesting and everything you can do in it. And like with crypto voxels, you can like display your art and your NFTs and everything. I know Decentraland's doing that too. There's so many cool things going on.
Yeah, I love Decentraland. I love it's a project called Building Blocks, which is all about funding public artworks and engaging artists in urban regeneration. I think that's a really cool project. Yeah, I think it's really exciting to see all of these emerge, and also to see the developer tools in these various ecosystems reach a stage where this stuff is becoming easier to build and quicker to get to market. And I think we're going to see a lot more exciting projects because of that.
Absolutely. As soon as students get proper education, coming out of college or out of high school or wherever they might be in their lives, to jump into blockchain, the more we're going to see it progress and develop. And we're starting to see that slowly. It's very, very exciting stuff. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience, or anything that you're working on or that you're going to be doing in your schedule that you want people to know about?
All I would say is that I'm very open. People can tweet me, they can ask questions. I'm involved in a ton of stuff, and I love learning about new projects, and I love connecting people and finding ways to help people. And I think, as somebody who's kind of transitioned from one career into the blockchain industry, can sometimes be quite intimidating when you start out. There's a lot going on, there are a lot of people, but it's a very, very nascent industry, and it's also an industry which is such a pleasure to work in because there are some incredible people, and for the vast majority of the time, very, very friendly and helpful people. And so I would just encourage anybody who is thinking about this to dive right in.
Awesome. Is Twitter the best place to follow you or reach you?
Yeah, you can follow me and contact me on Twitter. My handle is @JessieBlock. That's JESSYBLOCK.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know that the audience and the people that will be listening will really find this interesting. Definitely had a great conversation about art and everything you're doing, and the tech in general, and dApps and whatnot. There's a lot to take away. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Anytime. All right. Take care.
Bye.